Tomorrow marks 1 week since the deadliest U.S. air disaster in nearly 25 years.
A passenger plane and a military helicopter collided near Reagan National Airport, killing 67 people.
Yesterday, cranes started pulling wreckage from the Potomac River while crews worked to recover more victims. So far, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers say they've recovered parts of the American Airlines jet. Today's operations will focus on the cockpit. As far as the victims, the number identified is currently at 55. That's according to D.C. Fire Assistant Chief Gary Steen. He says they recovered more remains yesterday and says he believes the remaining victims are still in the wreckage.
These remains, as well as remains that have been recovered previously, are in the process of being positively identified. This is tragic.
It's still unclear what caused the crash. The National Transportation Safety Board is leading the investigation. Some of the questions deal with how high the helicopter was flying.
Lawsuits are certainly expected to be filed by grieving family members of the victims here in this tragedy.
Joining us now, our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes. Some of the top law firms, Khalif, have already said they've received inquiries from victims wondering what are their rights when it comes to lawsuits. We know they're coming. Where do the victims stand right now?
I mean, this is extremely tragic, and so you first start with that, recognizing that there will be an investigation. NTSB will do their investigation. Anyone that engages with the law firm, that firm will have their own investigators doing investigations. In the current investigations with fire and any type of law enforcement, that they're always working backwards. I mean, you can see we have the incidents. We want to figure out what happened, how did it happen, and then what happened in between there. You see a lot of videos that were posted. Working backwards, you see that, okay, two folks that were employed by the airline were arrested. Why? Because they leaked video. You find that out through the course of investigation. Well, how did this video get in the public's hands? It had to be these employees. Investigations kind of opened the door for that. But we had an opportunity to talk to one of the attorneys that has been contacted with a number of families, and we had a conversation about what this process looks like. Most of these type of cases will be kind of straightforward, that you have to file or make a complaint request to the federal government. Typically, the federal government has something called sovereign immunity, meaning they're protected. They're insulated from any type of lawsuit, except if you're able to prove that there was some type of negligence on their part. Mm-hmm. And so you have to make your complaint to them, and then they have a time frame. They have 60 days to respond. Either they can accept your demand or they can reject it. If they accept it, they'll settle and the case is over. If they reject it, now you have an opportunity to file your complaint, and then that's just when you'll get into discovery. You'll start having these interviews. You'll have depositions, interrogatories, all that. Finding out information about what happened then gets kind of dumped on you all at once. And that's when the families, most of the time in these situations, have to relive all the tragedy and the trauma of going through this all over again. But this is how our system works. To be able to get justice, typically justice is in the form of dollars. And for you to get justice in the form of dollars, typically you have to go to court, either a settlement or some type of trial.
And what's tough is we know how the system works. It's a long process. When these families want closure and they want it soon, like you said, these wounds are going to be reopened. I mean, what is a realistic time frame? Like, this could take a year, right? Because you first have to find where the fault lies, right?
Right.
And then you kind of shift all the lawsuits towards whoever is at fault. And then you said all these extra investigations. That could take months or a year.
I mean, the NTSB investigation will probably take years. I mean, this is something that they're going to make sure they dot every I and cross every T. But even if I filed today, I'd still have to wait that 60 days for them to make their determination before we can even bring a complaint forward. And so that's already just enough time. But I could tell you that before any law firm thinks about giving their complaint to the government, it's going to be months. It's going to be some time where they've done their due diligence, where they've done their investigation, because it's not just that they made a mistake, that there was a policy, there was a statute, there was a procedure that was violated. Okay, we talk about being over 100 miles, not more than 100 feet. Did you go exceed that? Well, if that was exceeded, that would be something that you would point to show that, okay, they were outside of the policy that they were supposed to be doing, and now you've opened up yourself for liability.
Real quick, Khalif, I do want to ask, with President Trump and Pete Hegseth kind of admitting guilt almost there, does that worry if you're a lawyer saying, don't say anything because you're admitting guilt? Does that add to a lawsuit?
Well, I mean, if you're telling the federal government not to talk in those situations, I don't think it automatically says that they're guilty, that they're culpable, that they're liable. I think what the Hegseth and the president have said is that we recognize that there were mistakes made during this time, right? That we believe that there were a number of things that could have been done different. Those are the right things to say. Even if they are saying that we admit that there was a violation of policy, I don't think that automatically means that it will be, okay, we're settling instantly. In situations like this, it'll have to play out by the facts, by policy, and it'll just have to be more than one instance of a violation. It can't just be an accident. It has to be a clear violation of the rules.
All right, Clay, thanks for helping us understand the legal side of what's going on.